Hi guys, someone asked me about how to make a grocery bag holder on the loom. I have one myself, and I did it very simply. I used the 24 peg loom, the Nifty Knitter loom, and what you're going to do is first is you're going to start with the drawstring cast on. That way that creates the hole at the end of the bag for the grocery bags to come out at the bottom of the project. So because I'm using the Nifty Knitter loom, and again the gauge is so big, and I'm going to use 2 strands of worsted weight yarn, weight of 4. If you have a bulky yarn, you may be able to get away with 1 strand, as you know. So we're going to take and we're going to do 2 strands. I thought a nice white with a nice blue would be pretty. And we're going to do our drawstring cast on. What's good about the Nifty Knitter is it has this little knob on it, as you know, and so it makes it easier to kind of place your working yarn on that, because with the drawstring you need to work back and forth, and you don't put the yarn on the peg, as you know. So we're going to do a drawstring, which is just front and back, working around the loom. When you get back to the beginning, you're going to lay your working yarn on top of the other, and then wherever there's 2 strands, or in this case 2 at the bottom, 2 at the top, you're going to knit over. So I just got to switch hands here. And again, you want to keep an eye on your starting tail, just kind of rewrap it around that, just so you don't lose it as you're going around. So lay it across a few pegs, and go wherever there's 2 at the bottom, or your bottom 2 loops, or 1 loop depending on the yarn, and just go ahead and knit that over. And again, this is going to be our drawstring cast on. Don't pull too hard again, because you don't want to lose it, and keep an eye on your working yarn as it comes out. And again, if you're using 2 strands, make sure the bottom 2 strands go over the top. It's just a little tricky because we're laying it in front of the project. So you want to look for the 2. Okay. We lost those 2. And again, so keep doing that until you get back to the first row. Or the starting point, sorry. When we get back to the starting one, I have 1 more that I have to do, and again, keep an eye on this working yarn. And so I have to do, oops, excuse me, get over here. Okay, I have to do this last one here. Get over there. Excuse me, then you're going to take your working, oops, why the heck is that all messed up here? Get over there. Okay. Get these little tug, they must have somehow got out of whack a little bit. Mess up. It was because I had to do this last one. This is considered the first one. This is the one we're actually going to wrap. So again, keep an eye on this. You want to make sure it's on there. If you want to, you can just slip knot and set it on there, and that would keep it from going. But we did the last one, and now we're going to start wrapping these. Just a simple E-wrap knit. So go ahead and go around and do 1 row of E-wrap knit. Now what you can do is your tail that's here, just kind of push it in on the inside. You're going to be using this to pull the drawstring close later on. So you just want it on the inside of the loom, because again, later as this gets down, you'll be tugging on this and it will close off the drawstring cast on. So go ahead and, I mean, you can change this up for this grocery bag. It's not a set pattern. It's just to show you a couple steps that you need to know in order to do one. The main thing is do the drawstring cast on at the beginning so you can create the hole, because you'll see in a little bit what I do. So I'm just going to keep just doing plain E-wrap knit. So after you do a few rows, like I said, I just did E-wrap knit. Again, you can do whatever you want. You're going to turn your loom over so it's upside down, and our working tail that we first had, you're going to start pulling on that a little bit. And that's how you're going to know if you need to do any more rows or not, is how easy this pulls in. And I'm going to pull it in, but I'm not closing it all the way. Most of the time when I show you the drawstring cast on, we're closing it completely, but not this time, because this is going to be the bottom of the grocery bag holder, so we need there to be an opening for the bags to come out. So you're going to gently pull on it until you get the opening the size that you want. So I'm going to go a little smaller. So I'm going to do this size. I'm going to bind this up. Excuse me. So I'm going to use a crochet hook And what we're going to do is we're going to tie this off because we don't want it to stretch back out and we don't want it to go in. So we're going to tie it off, which means I'm going to have this working yarn and I'm going to go pick a stitch next to it. I don't have the best crochet hook tonight. And you're going to pull it through. To start the process of getting it to not be any smaller than that hole. So like I said, we got a nice opening for our grocery bags to come out of. And you can, like I said, you can keep going smaller if you really want it to be a tiny one. Now we already went through one. Now what I want to do is I'm just going to simply knot it. So like almost like you're doing a slip knot. And you want it as close to the project as you can. See, we got it all knotted off there. And sometimes I do one more for good measure. Now what's also good is if you're using 2 strands like we are here, let me back up here a little bit. So if you're using 2 strands like we are, the other option you have would be to separate them and do the same thing where you're going to go over and grab a different stitch, take one of them, one strand over, and then perhaps come over this way and you can redo that other one through one. And then because you have 2 strands, you could just simply tie them together. Oops, sorry about that. You can tie them together. And that would be another way to bind off that spot. And once you're all done with that, you can either keep this on for some reason, or you can just give it a little snip, shorten it up to however short you want it to be. But make sure you bind that off so you're not having any give to it. Now the next part of doing the bag is you're simply going to work your way to the length that you want. So you're going to keep doing whatever stitch you want or stitch combination until you get the length of the bag the way you want. Because I worked the project down a little bit, just a start or two, but I'm going to show you how you would take your grocery bag holder off the loom if you choose. Now again, remember this is just showing you the different steps to how to make one. When you want to do the bind off, what we're going to do, is a gathered bind off. We're going to have our scissors and we're going to cut our working yarn, or the yarn that's onto the loom, cut it down about 3-4 inches. Then you're going to take a second yarn and you're going to kind of do at least 8 to 10 inches or longer, so you have a second strand to work with. And then what you're going to do is you're just going to work these 2 strands through each loop. So we're just going to go into these loops, have our working yarn, a new yarn that we want to bind it off with, turn it, pull both through. Once you get them both through, you can take that loop off the peg. And go to the next one. Again, hold on to the yarn that you're using so you don't lose it and you don't pull it through. You're just going to grab it. This is a gathered bind off like we do for hats sometimes. Pull it through, remove it. Continue this till you get to the last peg. We're on the last 2 that we have to take off. Now what you're going to do here, and you got to be very careful, normally with a gathered bind off we'd pull it closed, but because we want this to be the opening for the bag, we will not be closing it off. What you're going to do is you're going to have these 2 strands that normally you would tug, but we're not going to. We're going to gently tie our original working yarn to one of the sides. And again, as always, I like to do 2 knots. Now with these strands that we have, pull one through, and again, it's closing it off, but we don't want it to close off. Go ahead and tie these 2 together. Now what you're going to do is you're going to pull the yarn through till you get both sides kind of even. We have this much tail on this side, so we're going to kind of lay it down, and as you can see we want the tails to be about the same. And now we have these 2 strands from what we worked on. Go ahead and tie them together. Again, I usually give things a double knot. Now what you have here is you're going to be able to hang it. This will be the part where they come out. This is where you can put them in. Again, you'll be able to stretch it out to put them in, and then just take these handles and you can give one side a little tug and it'll close off the top for you a little bit. But that's how you would do a simple, very simple bag holder for like grocery bags and such. Again, you have your opening down here for them to come out of, and then you would just simply have this be big enough with this kind of bind off that you can put them in there, and then use this part to just hang up on the wall or such for you, and then it'll kind of gradually close it off for you as it's hanging there. But I hope this helps on how to make a simple grocery bag holder.